Sees the return of the Champions League for Arsenal. Our third game in the Champions League group stage sees us travel to a very difficult place, people. We've got it all to do following our defeat to Lens. Again, we're kind of in mixed feelings after a dramatic draw with Chelsea at the Bridge. We visit Sevilla, the reigning Europa League champions. They're third in the group. They're 13th in La Liga. And their last 5 games haven't been pretty. They've actually changed their manager. They beat Almeria 5-1. They lost to Barcelona. They drew with PSV in the Champions League. They also drew with Real Vallecano, and in their latest game they drew with Real Madrid, which isn't an easy feat. It does make me nervous. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Look, I'm nervous. How if we fail to beat Sevilla following the defeat to Lens? Mathematically we can still qualify, but it doesn't look pretty. And we need to pray, people. We need to pray that, we actually, unlike in the Chelsea game, we start and finish the game well. We need to pray that we obviously get 3 points. It's a difficult ground to go to in Spain. And again, if the players don't know, Lens should serve as a reminder. Again, they've got Sergio Ramos, the king of S-housery, the Real Madrid legends. They've got Lamena, who's an ex-Spurs man, and he's in actually bullish terms, people. Arsenal work very well as a team, being in the Premier League, physical and fast. I always want to win. In the past, I played for Tottenham. It means something to me. I love them very much. This game is special because of the rivalry, yes. Declan Rice, for 5 minutes clamping, please. Thank you very much. In terms of our head-to-heads, the last 2 games have seen both teams win a piece, people. We'll get onto that later. Again, you look at it, people, you need to go all the way back to 2002/03, the last time we failed to make the knockout stages. And again, I still have hope we qualify, but everything is in the balance, if we're honest. Mikel Arteta obviously gave his press conference, and he has a lot to say and a lot to consider going into this game. Does he go with David Raya or Ramsdale?
All right, Matt, I'm in.
Congratulations to Aaron Ramsdale and his wife on the birth of their son. We know they've had a tough time. You saw in the All or Nothing, unfortunately, she suffered a miscarriage. So big up Ramsdale. There's very few things more important than life than, breeding and actually witnessing someone that's essentially 50% of you born into this world. And Mikel Arteta, since he's come in, a lot of our players have become family men and settled down, people. Happy, if you've got a happy private life, then the work life, it takes care of itself. On the topic of Raya, he said on Raya suffering in the spotlight, Arteta said he hasn't seen it at all. I think that's sly cap. Then he said there's a pressure of playing for big clubs where you have to win, you have to be at your best, and you have someone next to you that is pushing you every single day. But we can go player by player or position by position. You tell me what's happening with left back, the holding midfielder. You asked about Jorginho already, and Gabriel Jesus is here. And there's another question on that. That's the debate, and that's the beauty of the game as well. And the fact you have a lot of opinions is going to make those talks more frequent. I don't think Mikel Arteta is lying, but having, coached with Pep Guardiola, having learnt from Arsene Wenger, on top of what he's learnt tactically, he's learnt how to play the press. He doesn't give much away. Now, I think he's capping in relation to not seeing anything around David Raya. The players don't live in a bubble. On the goalkeeping situation, for what it's worth, on if it is unrealistic that people expect him to be constantly changing his goalie, I think I can speak for myself. I think it's unrealistic, really and truly. Again, you have to go with a first choice keeper. I don't think it can be a game where, what against Chelsea, for example, Raya plays, then against Sevilla, Ramsdale comes in, then on the weekend, obviously Ramsdale could play against Sheffield United, but he comes in and you consistently rotate. We need to kind of keep people fixated in their position. Obviously, outfield players, you can be a bit cute and clever with a Martinelli for a Trossard, or play around with the midfield, or maybe even a Zinchenko for Tomiyasu or Benjamin White on the right-hand side. But we need stability. There can't be a coincidence as to why we've been half decent in the last year or so, because we've had stability. He then said, I don't know. It depends on where that is coming from. It is someone from football, when errors are part of football and mistakes happen from defenders, for strikers and for goalkeepers, for sure. And he's not wrong. He's really not wrong in that regards, people. A lot of our players have been facing scrutiny in the last year or so, and definitely where this season is concerned. The latest victim being Martin Odegaard, following his anonymous display at Stamford Bridge on the weekend. On lessons we've learned from our last Champions League away game, I hope we have learned these lessons, because we cannot underestimate anyone. Everyone's a difficult game away from home. There are a few from that game, especially in the Champions League. You cannot give anything away. Both boxes are tremendously important to have control of the game. And there are going to be moments that can get away very quickly. You have to understand why this is happening and how the game went away from us. But there was a lot in our side to lose the game the way we did, even though looking about 2 times, we didn't deserve that result. To be fair, we did deserve to lose. You know, we weren't efficient and effective in front of goal. We did take advantage of an error that Lens made. We weren't effective in defending our box, and ultimately football was decided at both boxes. I think the Lens game displays that, Fulham displays that, Chelsea game away from home and Spurs at home in that, you know, I wouldn't say we was terrible. In fact, to be fair, I would say we was terrible against Chelsea. But fundamentally, you need to keep balls out the back of your net and you need to take the chances, really. You know, for the vast majority of those games, I stated, excluding Lens, we have to take heed in the fact that we didn't lose, really and truly. If you can't win, don't lose. So we kind of got away with something in some certain degree, people. But the Champions League is not a joke, people. It's not a joke in any stretch of the imagination. And as I said, you know, we started off great. PSV, we smacked them up and put them to the slaughter. Our hard work quickly became undone against Lens. If we do suffer 2 defeats from 2 games in a row in the Champions League, it's a dark place, and you're flirting with potentially the Europa League. As stated, people, the last time we failed to make the knockout stages was 02-03, and I hope that Mikel Arteta and the players don't want to be there. We all know this is going to be a big test. You know, when you think of Sevilla, you think of a noisy atmosphere, you think of Europa League pedigree, so just ban that under European. They've got a bunch of experience to call from. They've got Acuna, Ramos, obviously, El Nesri, who I believe is chasing a record really in the Champions League of scoring consistently, Rakitic, if that hasn't been stated, and many other players. It's not going to be easy, really. And there's also the fear factor, because Sevilla have nothing to lose. We're ahead of them in the group on paper. If they lose to us, considering the fact that they've changed managers and their form's been woeful, I don't think that's going to sell too many headlines. Versus if Arsenal have 2 L's from 2 in the Champions League, it doesn't look good. Again, we did get a point against Chelsea, but again, following the Chelsea game, it doesn't look good. This is the scenario we wanted to be in. This is the games and high pressure moments we wanted to be in. We worked so hard to be in the Champions League last year. I hope the players don't want to give it up easily, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to stand up to be counted when we kick off against Sevilla away from home. It's as simple as that. On the topic of Aaron Ramsdale against David Raya, again, this isn't something that isn't going to go away, I believe, until the summer. I can't imagine a reality where Aaron Ramsdale personally leaves in January. Obviously, money talks, and if the player says he wants to go, you have a decision. But with David Raya and Aaron Ramsdale, for whatever the season throws up, we have 2 quality keepers that can come in. So I would think, you know, where you look at potentially Aaron Ramsdale, Partey with his contract, Smith Rowe, dependent on game time, you know, these are things that you probably want to assess in the summer, really, when we have more time to maneuver. It doesn't make sense at a testing period like January to be messing about. But for what it's worth, as you can see in the graphic ahead of me, people, Ramsdale's obviously got 4 appearances. David Raya has 5. In terms of clean sheets, Aaron Ramsdale has 5. How's he got 5? Oh, sorry, apologies. I'm reading. I'm skipping things, people. Let me start again. Raya has 5 appearances. Aaron Ramsdale has 4. In terms of saves, Raya has made 8. Ramsdale has made 5. In terms of clean sheets, Aaron Ramsdale unfortunately only has 1. David Raya has 3. Goals conceded, they're both at 4 apiece. Successful passes, Aaron Ramsdale can't talk to David Raya. Aaron Ramsdale's completed 74 passes. David Raya has completed 154. Now, could that be because he's played 1 game more? I'm not too sure. You know, that would mean just over 60, 70 odd passes that Ramsdale would have to make in the game. And I don't think that's feasible. But we all know, in my opinion anyways, Aaron Ramsdale is good with a ball at his feet. But at the same time, I think David Raya is just that bit better, a couple of percentages in what Mikel Arteta demands of him. And you've seen that in the City game. You probably saw that in a positive light in the second half against Chelsea. Of course, in those 2 games, there has been nervy moments from David Raya. And obviously, David Raya is getting a lot of scrutiny, rightly so to a degree, in the sense of, in my opinion, in the big games, he hasn't really, you know, he hasn't put a foot wrong per se, but he hasn't really convinced. Obviously, against Lens, he made that mistake. That can happen. People can make mistakes. When you play out from the back, those mistakes are going to happen. But it is another one etched to his name in a game where you could argue Ramsdale, having helped us qualify for this competition, can count himself unlucky over the fact that he's yet to break his Champions League virginity in such competition, people. But yeah, against Lens, there were shaky moments. Chelsea, there were shaky moments. He made a great save against Spurs, but there were shaky moments. The City game, whether it was Julian Alvarez, whether it was the pass, like in the Chelsea game where he sold Declan Rice short, whether it was, you know, the build up to the first goal Spurs scored, I don't think he's convinced in the big games wholeheartedly. And obviously against Chelsea, you know, Mudrik's shot / cross kind of, done him. And it's another one. I don't think Raya should or be dropped, but I think there's every chance of Ramsdale getting a look in. Further looking at these two people, Raya's obviously played 5 games to Ramsdale's 4. In terms of passes per 90, Aaron Ramsdale stands at 19 successful passes. David Raya stays at 31, folks. Passing accuracy is quite close. David Raya has 78% versus Ramsdale 77. Long passes, Aaron Ramsdale has 8.25 to David Raya's 15.2. Pass accuracy, 10% better with Raya, which 10% could be the difference between winning a league or qualifying for the latter stages or not. David Raya has placed 43% accurate passes from long range. Raya's competitor, Aaron Ramsdale, only has 33%, which again kind of shows you certain things, people. And as I said, it's all about percentages, really, and fine margins in that regards, if I'm completely honest with you guys. And when you look at it further, people, could it be argued that there's deeper problems than just necessarily the praises or criticisms we have for Aaron Ramsdale or David Raya? Because when you look at the worst save success rate in the Premier League for players or goalkeepers with 4+ appearances, Aaron Ramsdale's save success rate is 55.5%. David Raya places 5th, 4 people ahead of him with 61.5%. So for all the criticisms we could have potentially of David Raya and things like that, are there deeper issues, or Ramsdale for that matter? Are there deeper issues inside Arsenal in that is why we find ourselves where we are? I don't know where you would start in terms of the analysis of such, but could that be something to consider, people? I don't know. You lot let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts throughout this video, folks. Also, folks, headed into the Sevilla game, I do wonder if Kai Havertz will get a start. I do expect to see, I wouldn't say massive changes, but I do expect to see anything from 1 to 3 changes from Mikel Arteta, if I'm honest. There's every argument to play Tomiyasu ahead of Zinchenko. I would probably go Declan Rice, Partey, and Odegaard, but you could imagine a reality where it's Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, and Martin Odegaard, dependent on Thomas Partey's fitness and things of that ilk, people. So we really will have to see. I mean, to be fair, Kai Havertz has won this competition. So if anyone should be equipped with playing in high pressure moments and difficult away games and stuff, it should be Kai Havertz, who in his last 2 substitute appearances impacting off the bench, which you could argue he should stay doing for now. He's done okay, really and truly. So I do wonder if he will get a look in that regards. Only God knows, and only Mikel Arteta knows. I guess we'll have to see at 8 p.m. UK time, folks. Where that's concerned, Arteta in his press conference on if we will see the best of Kai Havertz in a competition he's already succeeded in. That's certainly one of the reasons, plus quality and a number of things he has already done in his career at his age, and then to improve the starting 11 as well, because he has tremendous quality, and that is going to help us to be better. Obviously, Kai Havertz found himself playing week in, week out initially. He has found himself dropped. And he, as I said, I believe off the bench, he's had his most encouraging appearances, you would say, against City. And in his own way, obviously, Saka got the assist, but it's a long ball from David Raya into Havertz initially. The move temporarily breaks down before it's kept alive. Saka's obviously found Trossard, and we've completed a smash and grab and got a point at a ground where in 90 minutes we didn't deserve one, really and truly. I'm not sure if he improves our starting 11 right now, really, in the same way Declan Rice is immediately upgraded, and I think we're one piece short of a 3-man puzzle in midfield. Say what you want about Odegaard against Chelsea. Martin Odegaard, Wondergaard, the class Weejan, our Capitano, is a quality player. He has to face the music for the Chelsea game, and the fair criticisms fans have, because at the end of the day, he's wearing the Arsenal number 8. He's the captain, and he's, a go-to man. But I just feel with Odegaard and Declan Rice, we're missing that younger Partey, or we're missing that expansive number 8 who is better to fill the void than Kai Havertz right now in that Granit Xhaka's left. I'm prepared to give Havertz time, but it is underwhelming. As I said, a 65-odd million pound man, in my opinion, he's looked better in recent weeks off the bench, impacting the games. That's something where you consider his experience and what he's supposed to bring to this team. It's not really on, really and truly, is it, folks, if I'm completely honest with you. And I think the problem with Kai Havertz, obviously, he's a versatile player. You've seen him play as a false 9. He can play as an 8 and play in a number of roles. But what is he a master at? What is he great at? If Kai Havertz retired tomorrow, what is he going to be known as? Is he going to be known as a false 9 or a striker? Again, it is better to have tools in your arsenal than none, but it is a jack of all trades, master of none business. But at the end of the day, Mikel Arteta spent 60 odd million on the German international. He's going to have to make it work really and have to justify, what I would say in Kai Havertz's defense, not that he's the talking point going into the Chelsea game. He's only a couple of games into what I assume is a 4 or 5 year deal at Arsenal. So hopefully he can turn it around and convince all of us that he has a long-term future in the starting 11, or really can improve the quality of our starting 11 so far, like Mikel Arteta has had to say. When you look at Sevilla, people, Sevilla have only won one of their last 7 games across all competitions, beating Almeria 5-1 in La Liga last month, though they also lost just once to Barcelona in that time, in brackets 5 draws. They're also unbeaten throughout their last 5 home games, however, winning twice and playing out 3 draws. So that tells you they're not to be slept on. They're not to be underestimated, and you underestimate them at your own peril, people. Again, we've seen it, with Lens, we've seen it with potentially Chelsea and Spurs. Again, the fans can't be held accountable, but when you underestimate teams, you play a very dangerous game, people. It's the Champions League. Everybody's earned the right to be here. Sevilla have more European pedigree than us. They're a very scary team. Anytime they go against English sides, they do kind of cause them problems, people. You would ask, forgive me if I'm wrong, Man United in the latter stages of the Europa League last year. When you think of Sevilla, you think of European pedigree. Fair enough, the Champions League is very different from the Europa, but the premise still remains. They are not to be taken lightly. And again, as Lens has showed, if the fans make noise, if the 12th man does their job, if your starting 11 make it difficult for Arsenal to play their game, then we're in issues. And I would say in the Lens game, I would say in the Chelsea game in the first half, it has kind of shown to a degree that it's not that we can only play one way, because I don't think that's true, because I think Mikel Arteta has shown he can get us to play different ways. But we are very patient. We're very scripted. We don't really have that healthy bit of randomness. We're not really a direct team. Obviously, you saw in the last 20 odd minutes or so, or better yet, dying embers of the Chelsea and Manchester City game, when we did start to go long, skip out a couple of passes and go a bit long into our middle third and final third players. We do have that, but that isn't something that you would describe as consistent within Arsenal's play. And that seems to be like our, ground zero. Everything's kind of gone out the window. We kind of have to throw the kitchen sink at it, sort of thing. So we'll have to see in that regards, people, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, it doesn't make for good reading. It's a tricky game, but at the end of the day, if these players want to get to where they need to get to for Arsenal Football Club, they need to be prepared to play in games like this and moments like this and stand up to be counted. The best way to rectify the Lens game and obviously the disappointing draw against Chelsea would be to get 3 points. I want 6 points this week across the 2 competitions we're in. We can't look beyond Sevilla. You definitely can't look beyond Sevilla. But if we can get 3 points and react to the defeat in the Champions League, and obviously people win at the weekend against Sheffield United, we're doing what we can do, really. It's now time to put up. We're in a testing period, 3 of the 4 competitions, with the luxury of the FA Cup coming in at the turn of 2024. The games are coming thick and fast. We need to use the squad. We need to keep saying all the talking points on what we're playing for now in October, bordering on November. We need to, in my opinion, go into January still saying these things, or still realistically being in with a chance of achieving these goals. And when you look at it, people, Sevilla and Arsenal have only met on 2 previous occasions, with both games coming in the Champions League group stages in 08-09. We won 3-0 on match day 1 at the Emirates, but when we went to Sevilla, they beat us 3-1, people. While Arsenal have a poor record in Spain, Sevilla have largely enjoyed welcoming English teams to their ground, only losing 3 of their previous 10 home games against English clubs in the competition, 5 wins and 2 draws. So that doesn't make for good reading, people, if I'm completely honest with you lot. And it is a bit scary and a tiny bit terrifying, if I'm completely honest with you. But again, records are there to be broken in a positive and negative light. Really and truly, if I'm completely honest with you guys. Personally, when you move on from that, people, my lineup, I would personally go from back to front. David Raya, Tomiyasu at left back, Benjamin White at right back, Gabriel and Saliba as the centre halves. Surely Thomas Partey's been fit. He's gone on the international break and got some minutes. He's come off the bench previously for Arsenal, not against Chelsea. He didn't play against Chelsea. Again, he was at Atletico Madrid. So him of all people, I look at Partey having spent a period in Spain, obviously Mikel Arteta being Spanish and David Raya, three of those players, and indirectly Kai Havertz, and because he's played in the Champions League, and Odegaard having spent time in Spain, they should know exactly what we're stepping into when we visit to Sevilla. I think Partey needs to be in there. We need to be a bit solid defensively. I don't think Jorginho was poor against Chelsea, but on the transition, you're always in issues there. And obviously Zinchenko could play and he gives us a lot in terms of creativity, but we lose a lot defensively. And I think we need to get back to somewhat being half decent defensively, if I'm completely honest with you guys. So I think Tomiyasu, who another one we speak of impacting off the bench, has done quite well in the last two big games he's played. And I just think he gives us a lot more defensive security. Of course, we're going to need to double down on our attackers, going up a couple of percentages because Zinchenko isn't there. But I think Tomiyasu has to be there. I think you have to go with our first choice centre-back pairing. Benjamin White is Benjamin White, and I think he needs to play. I would keep David Raya in the team, really, because I just would. I wouldn't bring Ramsdale back in just yet, but I wouldn't say last chance saloon for Raya. But if there's any shaky moments, then I do think it's time to reinstate Aaron Ramsdale. But maybe playing in his homeland, the manager selecting you and still backing you despite some nervous moments could be the boost that David Raya requires, people. So I'm going with David Raya. I know Odegaard was poor against Chelsea, but let's be real with ourselves. Declan Rice, Partey and Odegaard is our first choice midfield trio. And I think Partey and Rice gives us the blend of physicality, of being good on the ball and being defensively secure. Martin Odegaard's our captain. Hopefully he can get back to his best. I do feel a bit sorry for Trossard because he's chomping on the bit to start, but I would remain with Martinelli, and Bukayo Saka has to play. And Gabriel Jesus, I think he was quite poor against Chelsea, but you're still my man. You need to play. You could make a case of Zinchenko still being in the team. Maybe that comes at a cost of Tomiyasu still remaining on the bench, or Benjamin White. I do think Kai Havertz will actually play alongside Declan Rice for what it's worth. And I don't expect to see any other changes beyond that, if I'm completely honest with you. But regardless of what team goes out there, they need to get the 3 points. It's as simple as that. We can't not speak about Sevilla versus Arsenal without first and foremost, or last but definitely not least, better yet, honouring Jose Antonio Reyes. R.I.P. Reyes, man, gone far too soon. It's a shame, that he lost his life in tragic circumstances, but he'll never be forgotten. Legacy lives on forever, and, may thoughts be with his family and those that it concerns, people. It's unfortunate that a man lost his life, born in 1983 to 2019. It's sad, but our thoughts are with his family as always, and I'm sure he will always remain in their hearts, folks. So yeah, people, Sevilla versus Arsenal is one thing, people. Again, there's plenty of talking points. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on how the game's going to go, your potential starting 11, any positives or negatives, or any general concerns. I think it's time to see what's going on in other news concerning Arsenal Football Club, folks, if we move on right now. We have once again been linked with Aston Villa and Brazilian, better yet, apologies, midfielder Douglas Luiz. Now, he just signed a new contract at Aston Villa. We all know Edu and Arteta for different reasons. Edu's a fan of his, maybe because, he's crossed paths with him during his days in his previous job. Arteta obviously worked with him at Manchester City, where he didn't really get an opportunity. 90 Minutes has said Arsenal remain interested in trying to sign Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa following his excellent start to the season. Sources have confirmed. The Gunners would like to add another midfielder to their ranks during the January transfer window and are looking at options across both Europe and South America. I mean, that's where you've seen us link with plenty of players. 90 Minute understands that they like the look of Fluminense's Andre, a key target for Liverpool. Apparently, we've looked at Timber's twin brother, Quinton Timber of Feyenoord, who's doing quite well. Arthur Vermeeren, who is playing for Antwerp people and is wanted by Barcelona and doing quite well for them, the 18-year-old. And we've also recently been linked with Valencia's Javi Guerrero, people, the 20-year-old midfielder who got into the side towards the back of last season and is doing quite well. So again, I think we're looking for a midfielder because you look at the links. I think a midfielder is on the agenda. I don't think we're going to sign Douglas Luiz or those sorts of players. When you look at it, I know the talk in the market is around a striker and a wing, or two positions Arsenal could do with. Me personally, I think central midfield is an area we're going to sign in January or look to do such, and maybe another defensive body, depending on what happens with Cedric, who's a forgotten figure, and the progress of Timber returning from an injury. It's easy to link us with Douglas Luiz because we tried to get him in the latter stages of the transfer transfer window a few years ago. Obviously, he fits the dynamic. Apparently, Mikel Arteta and Edu are big fans of his, but I can't imagine Aston Villa want to let him go in January. And obviously, signed a new deal, and he started the season well and in blistering form. So he's going to cost a lot of money. You do wonder what's the asking price. For instance, if they ask for 50 million for Douglas Luiz, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the biggest of transfer window fees, but 50 million on Douglas Luiz is a bit mad. You look at Pedro Neto, apparently we value him at 40 million. Wolves are saying 70 million, depending on where you read with Ivan Toney. It's everything from 60 all the way to 80 odd million quid. Douglas Luiz is probably going to cost around 50. It's not saying these players aren't good, but is there much value for money? There is. Pedro Neto worth 70 million potentially in January to Arsenal. Is Ivan Toney, for all his qualities like Pedro Neto, worth up to 80 million? Is Douglas Luiz worth 50 million? So we probably need to target a lesser known entity or clubs that have more of a willingness to sell these players. I do like the fact that we've been signing Premier League quote unquote proven players, but you have to pay the premiums. Following last summer's additions, we did spend a lot of money. You hear we have to tread closely with FFP. So we'll have to see exactly what's being done there, people. For what it's worth, Aston Villa do not intend to even entertain offers in January, while Luiz himself is committed to the club and wants to help them qualify for the Champions League. So we'll have to see what's going on there. Sources have told 90 Minute that the Gunners boss Mikel Arteta and sporting director Edu Gaspar are both huge admirers of Luiz. Mikel Arteta has known the midfielder since his days as assistant at Manchester City, where Luiz spent 2 years under contract but could not play due to work permits due issues. Since their career path split, Arteta has kept a watchful eye over Luiz and would like to reunite with him at the Emirates Stadium. So again, there is no smoke without fire. There's clearly an admiration for the player. Whether that correlates to preparing a bid for him in January, whether Aston Villa are prepared to entertain offers, only God knows, people. So we'll have to watch that space. Let me know your thoughts once again. In relation to the Sevilla game, we've covered that. We'll have to see exactly what it's going to say, really. Again, on the topic of that, don't forget, I'll be doing a watch along. We kick off at 8 p.m, so I'll be live from 7 p.m. There's a lot to consider. And don't forget to let me know your thoughts on your potential lineup. If you think we'll win, are you nervous? Are you positive? Where are you at with this sort of game, people? Don't forget to hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Join me for my watch along. God bless you all for tuning in. It means the world. Like, comment, subscribe, boost the YouTube algorithm. One love.